All serious digitally driven economies invest heavily in infrastructure, and one critical aspect is what is known as an internet exchange point, which is simply a physical infrastructure that allows several internet service providers, ISPs, and network operators to exchange traffic between their networks. Nigeria also owns one that is tasked with facilitating internet operations, localizing internet traffic, as well as reducing local internet routing costs. Mohammed Rodman, CEO, Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria, IXPN, joins us to break down some of the complex behind-the-scene activities that make the internet tick.
So tell us, what happens behind the scene when someone visits a website?
When someone visits a website from his computer, usually what happens is that you put a name into your computer, into your browser, and there is a resolver that actually talks to what is called a DNS server that goes all the way to the internet, which has critical DNS root servers that does the translation. So it's a series of referrals that happens from your computer to the service providers' computers, to the entire internet computers to get you an answer. So behind the website you're browsing, there is what is called an IP address. So each computer in the world and each website in the world has what is called an IP address. It's a number that is hidden, that we don't usually know it. It's just like your phone book. You dial people's numbers and then you dial people's names, and then your phone book automatically translate the names into numbers. And that's what happens in the internet. So the internet runs on numbers, and the DNS, the domain name system, actually translates those names into IP addresses, and they reach their destination.
So it's possible that you can search for a local address, a website that is local, and they are routed international. So why is it important that we should keep the traffic local?
Okay, the importance of local traffic is, but before I go into that, let me quickly clarify. There are two kinds of networks in the internet. There's what is called eyeball networks, people that are trying to browse all the networks that have people behind them, the MTNs, the Airtel, and the rest. And you have what is called the content networks, the networks that have the content. Google, Yahoo, and all the rest, Facebook, are all content networks. And you have other networks that are called content distribution networks. They don't own content, but they distribute content on behalf of the owners of that content. So basically two kinds of network, content networks and eyeball networks. So what is happening is that Nigerian networks are mostly eyeball heavy in such a way that they hardly have any major content on their networks. So as an end user, as you browse, the information you are searching is actually residing on a physical server somewhere, even though it's called a cloud, but it's on a physical server in a data center somewhere in the world. So the beauty of local hosting is that we want to start localizing our information hosted locally within Nigeria. The beauty of the local hosting is that, one, it reduces capital flight, because most of the money that is being paid for in terms of hosting content outside is in US dollars, and the money now goes international. The second one is that business continuity. As all of us Nigerians, almost 200 million people with a lot of information that we have, and if we keep hosting it outside, it means that we have to pay for the transportation costs to reach the internet. So if you host content locally, the cost actually drops significantly, because between you and the information you are seeking is just maybe a few kilometers, or maybe highest, even if it's in Borno State, maybe 1,500 kilometers from Lagos. But if you host it outside, it's far away, and therefore the latency is high, the quality of service is very poor. That's the second one. The third one is that, it's cybersecurity, in such a way that when we browse information, and between a minister or the president and his personal PA, they are hosting their website or the email server of Nigeria, for example, if it's hosted internationally, what happens is that when the PA wants to send an email or SA to the president, the email has to go all the way to where it's being hosted, either US, UK, wherever it is, just for it to land there, and the president will have to go there to fetch it back. Therefore, there is lawful interception. The countries that are within, that have the fiber that pass through them, can actually eavesdrop on the traffic. That's the cyber security aspect. The fourth one is the business continuity, because all of us are now totally reliant on submarine cables to communicate within ourselves. So if should in case, God forbid, there is a major tsunami or major incident in the West Coast under the sea, all the cables are yanked. God forbid, that means that we cannot communicate locally. So it means everybody is isolated because we are totally dependent on the submarine cables. Then the fifth one is like, as long as the capital flight is there and we're paying money for hosting, we deprive ourselves of the technical skills to manage data centers and to manage hosting business, because we are exporting the jobs. When you're paying for those services, you're actually exporting the jobs as well. And that's why it's very important that we host our content locally.
But do you think we have built adequate capacity and infrastructure to carry on this weight?
Of course, yes. A few years ago, I would have said no. Right now, we have the emergence of new data centers, state-of-the-art data centers that are Tier 3 certified, globally certified data centers, like the MDX, what is it called, data center, Rack Center, MTN data center, and some few of them, you know, they are all coming up. And I believe they have the capability to handle most of these things, and most of them have the potential to expand the facility. So it's doable.
Tell us, what is an internet exchange point and what is the importance?
Okay, an internet exchange point is a physical infrastructure where all internet service providers, content providers, educational institutions, and any other organization that is IP-centric, that they usually physically get connected to that so that they can exchange their traffic locally. Just to give you a quick example, if someone within Nigeria is using an Airtel SIM card and he's browsing, and meanwhile Airtel is the customer of the Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria, and you're browsing Google, and Google is a customer of the Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria, what happens is that from what is it called, Airtel's network, it comes straight to the Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria, and then from the Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria, we route it directly to Google. So that is what usually happens. So it's where you have the eyeball networks that I mentioned earlier connected to the content networks. So it's a physical infrastructure that interconnect all service providers. And the beauty of having an Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria is that we route our local traffic within Nigeria. So if someone is browsing a website that is local within Nigeria, a student using MTN SIM card and he's browsing Jamb, for example, for registration, because Jamb is hosted locally and he's using MTN, that is a local service provider, the transactions and whatever happens locally within the country without going internationally.
So how many exchange points can a country have?
It can have as many as it wants, but the idea is you want it in a community where at least you have more than 3 service providers, because an exchange point is a physical facility that connects at least 3 internet service providers, so where they can exchange traffic.
So is the IXP the biggest in Nigeria today?
Of course, we don't have any competitor. It's the biggest IXP not only in Nigeria, but in the entire West African region. And our vision is to be the leading IXP in Africa. And right now, we see the possibility of doing that.
Finally, Mohammed, it seems that we're not playing big in the content space. How do you think we can change that?
Honestly, it's more of advocacy. Government needs to understand that the economic engine of the internet is the content. We can't just be content creators. I mean, content consumers. Nigerians are content creators, but unfortunately, that content is hosted outside. With our huge population and diversity, I am sure with the right support from government and the coming together of all the key stakeholders together, we can change, the center of gravity of the internet as it is right now from South Africa to Nigeria. Because if you look at it, all the major hosting companies and the big companies in the world are in South Africa. Example, Microsoft just built a huge data center in South Africa. And we need to have the right incentives, the right policies to attract those bigger players into the country so that we can change the center of gravity of the internet, so that internet costs will significantly drop, and so that we can tap from the browsing that we are doing, because right now we are just consumers, so that we localize all the information, just like the way we are saying that we want to start manufacturing locally, we want to stop importing cars. If it's possible, we should assemble it here. The same thing with information, where right now we are just consumers and we are pushing for that to change.
Thank you for being on Tech Trends today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. We've come to the end of today's show.
Please follow us on social media, and don't forget, you can watch these and previous editions of the show on the channel's TV YouTube account or via my blog cfatech.ng. For Tech Trends, I'm Chukwuemeka Agbata.